It is Saturday, March 12th, 2022. That all adds up to a 12 or a 3. Pick whichever one feels better to you. I like them both. And my name is Barbara With. And for those who are just joining us or new to who I am, I'll just a little introduction. I have been a psychic channel for 35 years now. And when I started, it was sort of like I was an antenna. And I was reading your higher power and I was speaking back to your human mind. That's all it was. But when I met Lily and Teresa in 1993, and I started channeling groups and started the psychic sorority was born, they became angels. And as they guided us with step-by-step instructions for what they said was world peace, one person at a time, starting with each self, we used our own selves and our own conflicts to test out the theories that we had been channeling together. And so somewhere along the way, I learned I could speak to those who'd passed on and realized that I'd been talking to Albert Einstein and a party of 12 that also had a lot to say about a lot of things. And so since then, it's just been really a kind of a wild ride, and people are drawn to it who need to be, and it's there when you need it. And I feel like we're in this period right now of expansion, and I'm excited about it. And but before we get into the channel, I just have I have some words to look up that are important for, I think, this wild card Saturday. I just want to remind us that every Saturday at 9 o'clock Central, I'm going to be here and with hopefully all of you guys and other people, and to sort of organize things in my head, because this is a lot of information we're getting in 2022, especially after 35 years of this. It's been consistently focused in this self-love, however you go, whatever path you go on it. It's specifically always been about self-love and working for the good of the whole. So every Saturday, first Saturdays are going to be the Diaries of a Psychic Sorority, talking with the angels, self-love. And I feel like that's what we're doing today too, is I needed some angels. The second Saturday is the wild card, which I love that because it's always exciting to not know what they're going to talk about. And the third Saturday I want to devote to conflict revolution, the process that has been solidified through all of these years of us fighting with each other and then working the process together and fighting and finally getting to this place where there is no more conflict between us. And hopefully that's a sign of the future. So we're going to dive into how to practically do conflict revolution. And I've got a little quick one before we start channeling, I'll share. And then the fourth Saturday is going to be diving deep into Einstein and the maps of human consciousness and the unified field theories. And so all of you Einstein groupies can get your fix, and you quantum nerds can really explore there. And if there's a fifth one, we'll go back to the wild card. So I'm very excited about this. And the little story I want to share before we start channeling is about what happened. Everyone thought I might have gone out with some oral surgery, but no, that horror got put off. Because I basically, now that I know, I sprained my hip, but it felt like my back had gone out. And for truly about 15 hours, I was in screaming pain, and Lily will attest to it as she took care of me through this. As I was lying on the couch, you know, Jesus Christ, stop, fuck me, you know, to finally figuring out what it is. But in those moments of that deepest pain, every second was eternity. And it wasn't lost on me that there was a really deep reason why this was happening to me. And I was going to be with it. And I knew that part of it was there's something about being conscious while the pain is happening. we're so prone to want to get rid of pain and not feel the pain and medicate the pain and whatever, that to really think, oh, what a great opportunity for getting in touch with the deepest. And I can say that's maybe the deepest I've ever consciously felt, because it was excruciating, but it created some sort of consciousness as I applied our work to it while I was screaming on the couch. And because of it, I got more of my own revolutions from some things that I have stored in my basement and in my abscess, some of my bad thinking, and found out that I'm going to be okay. It's just going to be a little while, and I'm okay with that. I like that idea of slow rehabilitation, conscientiously healing, and I basically overdid. So, but what I got out of it was incredible. So I wanted to look up the word forgive, because as we look at what's going on in the world, and that also was my own revolution in my conflict, personal conflict, was what does that mean? I have to forgive, but what does it really mean? And for as much as we've all gone through forgiveness. So I went there, and forgive, the first one is to excuse for a fault or offense. And the second one is to renounce anger or resentment against. So in those two definitions, one is sort of the outside, like you've done something that I need to absolve you of fault from. And the other one is just the commitment to renouncing anger, which is just giving it up, or resentment about. That's what forgiveness is. And then formally, like renouncing means to formally pronounce that you're going to give up the resentment and give up the anger for. And interestingly enough, fault also something that prevents perfection. Something that prevents perfection as a flaw, blemish, or defect, an error. So if somebody's made an error, that outside forgiveness is about deciding that, well, you know what, they made an error. I'm going to renounce my anger and my resentment against them. And this was, you'd think I would know, but we all are continually learning about this. And as I decided to forgive those people and renounce my anger and my resentment and just love them, then comes the revolution of how am I going to love myself in the face of that. So today, I'm excited to hear this channel. I think there's a lot more that we're doing that we don't even know, which is mostly the case. So let's begin really with a super consciousness of our body right now, wherever yours is. We've got bodies live all over the world, Canada, Australia, Washington State, Denver, Georgia, Ontario, Norway. So picture yourself where you are. I'm in Minneapolis, and I'll picture where you are. And just take some deep breaths together. And as you exhale, another inhale. And exhale any tension or resistance or doubt. And let's make our intellects there in your head, up in your actual brain, open like the sky, like this picture behind me in this picture that you're looking at. That our intellects become these empty rice bowls, waiting to be filled. And as is true with rice bowls, It fills with rice and the nutrition, and it gets eaten and emptied again. This experience, this meeting, this communion we're going to have this morning it's a spiritual, sacred meeting. It's so everyday for us on our Saturday morning coffee clutches, but it's a sacred place where we come together with intention to do magic, with an intention to become the greatest good for the good of all. And to begin with, we will command that only the most divine light shine down upon us at this time, and the greatest good be present here. Welcome all to the circle today. We are so honored to be here again, as always, being able to communicate directly to you in this very special way. We are old friends. Even if you're hearing our voice through Barbara for the first time ever, you know, all of you, this part of you that's non-physical, that's eternal, that is your spirit, your soul, however you have been describing it. It gets lost from your identity in the world today. The world today is going through such a big reveal that it's happening so quickly. The humans don't know what to do. They don't know what to do, literally. Every human is responding to this individually, even though the way that human energy organizes sometimes, there's a safety factor that part of the old evolutionary patterns of human evolvement had to do with being safe to survive. Now that we're going through this evolution of the whole DNA, we're birthing a new human who is not dependent upon competition, not dependent upon polarity and fear, a new human that is absolutely super conscious of its true nature and committed because of that to the good of the whole, because there's only one here. And living under that truth is one of the hardest things that you can do in human form, especially right now. And yet, the work that you do on yourselves, on the microcosm of your personal lives, and also the microcosm of your physiological being in the nanoparticles that make up your body and the space between those molecules. Somewhere in there, there's this interface, you see, between your spiritual, non-physical and the hard, cold facts of how the physical world is organizing outside you. And this makes you the God. It makes you the God of your domain, that you have volunteered and were chosen to have this life right now. It's no accident that you are this human being right here, right now, at these very times, with the very things that you have to deal with. This is all a beautiful dance of incredible cooperation. And your job is to take control of your domain, of your energy, of your intentions, of your thoughts, your feelings, your senses, your intellect, your intuition, your emotion. That you take control of you. And every minute of every day is an opportunity for you to do that, depending upon how much you're going to nurture yourself with that intention to live as that new human. This external situation right now that you're looking at in March 12th, 2022, with the old competitive, fear-based. If I destroy what's in the mirror, I'll be safe. And yet you know that any sort of retaliation in any kind of war to do such things would just shatter the mirror. So what do you do? And we want to say this morning that it's so important to remember a few things. One is that simplicity right now is your best friend. To keep things as simple as you can will help you be in present moment more often. Being in present moment isn't the kind of new age, touchy-feely, feel-good moment. That isn't really the point of being in present moment. As Barbara will tell you, being in present moment in pain is more difficult to ignore. When you're not in pain and you're in those feel-good places, which is, don't get us wrong, part of what we're working towards in the new being the new humans without the competition. But to take your own life and dedicate it to being that change makes much greater impact than you see in the moment that you make the decision. The way that the world is created, there are layers of that non-physical that are, we've been calling it the gelatinous ooze, that emotion part of you, that deep, deep in the center of the earth, that part of you that exists on that root level, connected to source, right in the center of the earth, literally in the center of the earth. This part of you in the non-physical that becomes the mechanism with which you shape your present moment experience. And that present moment experience that you're shaping is part your human mind. We're certainly advocating that you as a human being take control of your intellect fully, understand it, wrestle with it, confront it, witness it all the time, and adjust it continually like a compass, so that your intellectual, your human thinking mind that is focused on the physical world is going to be aligned to whatever the greater part of the mechanism is. So in Barbara's case, she's in pain for 15 hours and still the mechanism needs to align to compassion. The intellect in that case, when, and this is not just for her, but any time that you are in such a great amount of pain where pain is generating deep emotion to come up and need to be in, feel and breathe right now. And that's what we were saying, that not every case of being in present moment is all about a gentle rest. What we're trying to help humans do right now is, first of all, take control of themselves. Secondly, understand the power of what that does without expecting to see it immediately outside yourself, because there's a time element here, that this sweeping sort of wake up call that's happened over the past 2 years, and now especially here, is really just getting started. And that's the good news. And what we want to see is within the structure of time that you have to move through, you have to move through time. You are programmed in your body right here, right now in 2022, in whatever town you're in, wherever your body is, DNA. And you really do have to deal with these very real things. We are hoping to inspire you to be those leaders that take control of your own domain. What you're doing is you are then building the structure that you want to see, the foundation for the new humans, birthing the new humanity. The one that is now survival is about having a lateral power structure. Survival is about having consensus. Survival is about every human understanding that they are one with everyone else, awake and conscious. That's the rolling wave that's happening here. And it's very hard to see the glory of it while the Armageddon appears to be happening around you. But we say, much like what Barbara went through with the pain of the body, the realization of what was needed in order to regain a sustainability, to do what's right for the good of the whole. These are the everyday steps that you can take in your life as the macrocosm of the microcosm. That even though it may not appear like you're helping stop World War III, you are. And it has to do more with the non-physical, in that gelatinous ooze, where we're reprogramming the DNA of all of humanity to be more unified together. Because your survival now depends upon it. Before, your survival actually did depend upon the kind of competitive, polar, opposite workings going on, laws, well, however you want to call that. But now, this work you do on your own self-love affects the whole hologram. Since you are all one piece, what changes in one piece changes in all the pieces. We used to describe this as, if you broke the mirror, you would still see the hole in every piece. So yes, the everyday things that you do for yourself, for becoming a person who is unified in your own field, who understands what this gift of deep emotion is, and who can step up to say, I want to learn how to have the most evolved relationship to my emotions as I can. And we want you to look inside and process those emotions differently than that old model that is still being acted out heavily in your culture, voices of culture today. The us versus them, and trying to get back at and hanging on to the anger and the resentment. And that's why forgiveness, as renouncing the anger and resentment, unhooks you from the power that evil has to turn you against yourself or someone else. That's the power that evil has. And in every minute, microscopic way that you can do this in your life, you make a difference. And also because we're a small group, but we speak the truth about so many people in this world who have been training like you have to be the change, to help usher in this new configuration of human evolution, to be here through that. It's an exciting time, and you all have so much to give. For many, many years, you have looked at, what can the world give me? You've also labored under some false assumptions by some belief systems that if you just think hard enough, you can get whatever you want. We say that is a foolish statement to think that it would be so easy. What you're dealing with is creation and your power as a creator, and what you're going to do with yourself and your power as a creator right now. We want to create this space and this conversation where you, as people who understand that you are one being and you're working together for the good of the whole, that's all you need to know. Because when someone's really working for the good of the whole, truly letting go of anger and resentment renouncing that in themselves, you get a different kind of energy field. It's the very reason why survival now will be dependent upon getting along with each other. It's what is going to begin to help things to thrive. And what we have done as a party, as angels, as a whole consort of gathering of spirit and science, holy people and ordinary humans, angelic forces, whatever you want to call this reality that we have all together and that we get to share with you on Saturday mornings right now through Barbara, but that you don't need us or her to experience. And we're hoping that everyone steps up to be able to have such clear communication across those of you who still have the bodies, who are still focused on creating that universe of the physical world. And those of us who are not at this time presently engaged in that focus. And we can bring our strength and our vision, but you are the ones in the world. You are the ones with the hands and the hearts. You are the ones who can make these changes for yourselves. So right now, everything that you can allow yourself to analyze about the details of what's going on in your world, as much as those you can take personal. And when we say that, what we mean is take the metaphor of the world on the brink of annihilation. Understand that your thoughts, feelings, senses, your actions, your decisions should be made about yourself in that same fashion. So in other words, there is a part of the process that we have been studying and addressing for years. And that is when emotion is fueling thoughts that are then instigating action being taken, decisions being made that it really isn't for the good of the whole. So maybe you're angry at someone and you think that they need to be punished, and so you take this action. That is such a powerful string of consciousness that absolutely has an effect upon not only your life, the quality of your life, but then you are actually being a vessel for the old. You're part of that. We often use the analogy of when the fish threw themselves onto the land in order to evolve into amphibians and breathing air instead of water, that some of those fish didn't make it. Where in that part of your process where you're feeling this anger and resentment attached to this person who you think you have to punish, or it's yourself, and the funny thing about that, probably both, but what makes you take a different decision anywhere along that process? What part of you can instigate the change inside yourself so that you do something not to hold that old configuration in your physical body? Because right now, it's a huge amount of stress. And that's part of what the world is feeling. That's part of what everyone is feeling and suffering from and dying from, is this major amount of stress. And in that evolutionary sense, then, yes, some of the fish didn't make it. But there's a whole new wave of births happening. There's a whole new wave of consciousness that, for example, that you who have been studying this for a long time are feeling the change. You're seeing it because you've taken control of these things for yourself, and you've seen how it's changed. And so your lives, you've seen how you can have an impact in your own life when you do this kind of work together. On the bigger on the macrocosm, it absolutely makes a huge difference. Imagine right now, today in March 2022, if everyone was required to do conflict resolution, the world would begin to breathe the world would begin to breathe. When we said the simplest form, this is probably where this applies the best, is that the simplest understanding is that if you choose to hold the old perspective, hold on to anger and resentment towards someone, be prepared to find that point. What point you're on the verge of annihilation? What point is going to make you change and turn the corner? If you can examine this in yourself when you're in that state with whatever microcosm, little people village issues you have, if you're scouringly honest about yourself and you do your revolution, you find that you are in fact holding on to anger and resentment. What point will that change take place? If you do it, you can know that it can be done externally as well on the macrocosm. Anything can happen at any time. Nuclear war is not a given. It's an idea, it's a potential. It's a very big potential, but this is the work that we have done with you on the microcosm, is that you face the same kind of annihilations of your own life. And you actually face death as well, whether it's by old age or nuclear war. The more you can focus on that self and the forgiveness of the self, letting go of anger and resentment towards yourself, anger and resentment towards your government, towards your ex-husband, towards your neighbor, and whatever level. In Barbara's case, it was a very deep level. In some cases, it's just these repetitive thoughts that are keeping you hooked into the old way of thinking. It's like sweeping the forest, trying to clean up your intellect, trying to get control of every last part of that domain. And we don't mean control like keep it in a box. We mean the control of how those thoughts are going to be fueled into reality by your emotion, any emotion behind it. This is deep, deep work, but this is what the world needs to know, needs to be inspired to do. And we're so grateful for all of you who have helped us, you in the human bodies, who have helped us help you through these years to prove that this process, that these maps, that this idea of self-love and being self-loving is changing the world. Whether you know it or like it or not, exactly what you're going through, these revelations, the big reveal of who is really who, is in its stages, and people don't know what to do or think. So let's show them. Let's show them what self-love looks like. Let's continue to get together to explore and capitalize on the power that we have to self-love. So with all of that said, we will open for any questions and conversations you'd like to have.
Well, I'm looking forward to this new wave of consciousness, and although I've seen the impact of this work, I'm still feeling stressed. I relate to this stress that everyone is feeling, but internally I feel it so much in myself that I'm trying to hold it down. But I think it's because I'm feeling it's up to me through this work. It's been repeated over and over again how we're the change. We have to make the change within. And coincidentally, I'm now alone for the first time and taking care of myself. And so it's up to me. I have to make all of these decisions and make the change if I need a change of something. So I'm just needing some help with how to deal with this stress.
The first thing to remember is that, as we told you last week or whenever, that it's like you're in a war zone, and you don't see it in your daily life. You're still well behind the lines, but the world is panicking right now, even though you have personal reasons why you may think you need to panic. There's a lot of panic in the energy fields right now. We would say that shifting in the course of a day and the stress, it's shifting away from, we want to say this correctly, because we don't want you to live, we want to decrease the stress to the greatest amount that we can. Let's put it that way. And whatever that means, there's always that you have to feel and breathe without thinking about why or what or how. That basic skill it's so simple, but then again, you see what you're looking at is what part of you in your processing doesn't want to feel and breathe because of some egotistical stomping on sidewalk kind of thing. What part of you resists that? So in those terms, even if you couldn't get a grapple hold on your intellect that wanted to describe the stress and think about the stress and define the stress, if you at the same time, even reluctantly, continue to feel and breathe, you would eventually be able to dismantle some of that intellectual stranglehold and continue with reducing the stress. So better to feel and breathe with a head full of thoughts than not at all, and keep at it. Also, going back to you're in a war zone, or Barbara's story, and you can ask Lily about that later, is that you see people screaming their heads off in horrible pain. You see people having bombs dropped on them. This goes on all over the world every day. So to see it right now in the glorified version of world news is bringing it all home. And you can't be one together if half your world is being slaughtered without feeling it. It's impossible. And the more that you've become these beings who are committed to living in present moment for the good of the whole, consciously awake, ready to process all that feeling, that's a deep stress. And that's why we say, keep it very simple. Do what you can. Don't burn yourself out. Pace yourself, but accept that this is a stressful time right now.
Well, thank you very much. You asked a good question. I have to look at what part of me doesn't want to feel and breathe. Knowing how important this is and telling others, reminding them, feel and breathe through it. There's something in me that's just like, I don't know. I just have to stop and get that down better.
But that is the point of our analogy as well, is that the two decisions that you make, that you're going to renounce the anger and resentment towards yourself or each other, and the part of you that actually does that, because you've worked very hard. And so to still have it in you is only just the continuing part of the process of humanity right now. So don't think that there's some standard that you're missing. It's you're striving to even be aware of it changes it immediately. That's what we want to urge humans to think about in themselves in lieu of being afraid of World War III. Because it's the same, what will stop those people from implementing what clearly would destroy them? Because that's the same question for yourself. It's destroying you. That's stopping you. If you let it get out of hand, it'll make you sick.
Right. We all just have to stop and feel and breathe. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that example to the table, Debbie. I got this vision as the conversation was going on about how forgiveness can first begin as a thought, as an intention. I guess I'm going to make this into a question for confirmation. Does it begin as a thought of intention? And then it's almost like that opens up the lid, which allows abscesses that are way deep, lodged for a long time, to then rise. That's what I felt in my body as that conversation was going on, was almost like the lid opens in the top and then up comes all of this stored anger, and so it's easy to interpret that as a present moment situation, but it's really not present moment at all. What do you think about that?
In what way is it not?
Oh, well, I guess I don't mean not present moment, but it's not about, something happening right now. It's about clearing an abscess.
Yes. The abscess that humans feel embedded becomes present moment.
Yeah. Yeah, becomes present moment, and so it can be hard. It can be really hard when that starts to flow up. I know there's a few people I've talked to in my life this week that are saying things like, I feel like if I, let the lid off, I'm going to crack.
Yes.
So there's a sense of feeling like, well, how do we control that at a level that in the present moment that stays in that? Because self-love wouldn't be a choice to take on too much in one present moment, right?
Let's go back to your question.
Okay.
The first part of do you consciously intend to forgive, which means that you are renouncing anger and resentment. Renouncing is a formal statement of intention. It's not just forgetting, it's renouncing anger. So if you think about this wave of intellect where you have the subatomic and then the conscious level of hearing that you hear in your thoughts, and then the super conscious thoughts of angels and such, the down in that subconscious, when you're holding on to anger, it really means what you're saying is, in a way, I'm not angry.
Mm-hmm.
When the anger is coming up and you're stopping it by saying, I'm not angry, it has the same effect as if that anger comes up and you say, well, that person is a terrible person when it comes up, where you're projecting. This is what we want to stop. That's why you forgive, you renounce it. But then when you also think about those sentences we just said, is that I'm so angry and that person is a terrible person. The basic meaning is I can no longer pretend I'm not angry. And that makes me a bad person because I'm supposed to stop. You were all raised to get away from anger. Anger still it's considered a bad thing. It doesn't. So renouncing it, yes, absolutely opens up the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're actually doing the forgiveness exercise of that person who you thought was such a terrible person, how does that shift? Well, now the anger is flowing up and you're feeling and breathing and owning it. And you're consciously, for the good of the whole, understanding that that person is you and you're one being. So how are you going to organize in your head that truth? And the more that you feel and breathe and own that, just own it without assigning it to anyone. And the more that you can then intend a thought process of, I forgive you. The other meaning where you're going to forgive someone their offense, because then you're forgiving yourself. You're letting go of yourself as well. But it's that what Debbie was speaking of. There's that little angry little squirrel of the ego. And that's where we want to get to. And so for all of you, this is an extraordinary time that calls for extraordinary measures of being self-loving, of being patient, of willing to be conscious, willing to own your own depths of the pain and the anger that you might see outside yourself. These are all the more reason that you have to go into this sacred space. You have to make every present moment that sacred space. And that's being sort of a holy person, if you look at it that way. And that is not an easy human pathway.
I love that, calling it a sacred space. Even yeah, I love that. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing that up, Robin. It's Joanne here. Years ago, when I was working with the kids in the children's church, we were talking about forgiveness as one of the 12 powers or whatever the lesson was. And the outline for the lesson was to help them see that we would be giving a new thought for the old one. So forgiving, turn it backwards, give for. Give a new thought for this situation. And that has stayed with me all these years and decades for when coming up when I need to be forgiving. Usually myself, need to forgive myself for how I'm feeling and think that I need to forgive myself. I think that a key for me is to when I recognize that, to actually pat myself on the back and give a thought that you're doing well, way to go. Instead of just, letting go of something, also replace it with a positive or something that is more holistic, maybe, or more bringing things together in a better way. Does that compute?
Yes. And what's important to remember about this process that you're doing, this awareness of yourself, cultivating a witness of your life, it is like having multiple aspects of yourself. And it's learning to live with the multiple aspects of yourself. And in that sense, you're all in some way a party of 12 within yourself of aspects. You're working on unifying that field so that your grumpy morning self doesn't have to collide with your spiritual prayer self while you're dealing with your 9-year-old self. There's so many pieces of a human psyche. It's so complicated. To simplify it, keeping simple, that witness of yourself, what does that feel like? Think about it for a while before you set about to think that you should be witnessing. You can just sit in a chair and understand that as long as you identify, you can, okay, what's going on in my head? What's going on in my heart, my intuition? What's going on in my solar plexus? my emotion. That's a witnessing act. You're paying attention, you're getting outside your head and looking at the whole while you're still in your head. So we guess that's the point of what we're saying, is it's getting to accustom to working with a lot of different aspects, and then how you self-love all of them. It's easy to self-love the ones that are all spiritual and in peace and harmony and joy. It's not so easy to self-love the growly little squirrels that want to sabotage. For what reason? For what reason do you want to sabotage yourself by adding extra stress to yourself, by letting your intellect engage in worrying about something tomorrow? It's that minute and intimate and intricate, those changes. And this is revolutionary. So good for you, yes, to give yourself that pat on the back and to use the success of being aware that you have an angry little squirrel and they're living together and you're working towards unity.
Thank you. I had 12 squirrels in my backyard the other day. They're good to observe. Thanks.
We will bring the channel to a close by saying that all of you are surrounded not just by this party of 12, but by your own angels. This is a time where, with the veil between the worlds being thin, that you can communicate with those who've passed on, whether it be directly or in your dreams or in the signs of a cardinal or a butterfly. Take advantage of being here on the planet at this time. Feel the honor to be who you are. Divine peace of a sublime, mysterious, magical whole. Every day, commit to living in the mystery. Start to do rituals that honor the mystery of life, that honor the stuff that you don't know, that leave you open like a rice bowl, like an empty rice bowl, to receive the flow of divinity. We need you humans doing this right now. You need you humans doing this right now. And we are very excited, and it is our pleasure to help you to watch and be amazed. Namaste.
Joanne, how bizarre you had 12 squirrels. Isn't that coincidental? That's wild.
Yeah, those are the squirrels that eat all the bird food, right? That was really good. I really like the answer to my question. That helped me a lot.
Yeah, you know, it was kind of like going back to some basic stuff, but different.
Well, we're different, eh? Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
exactly. Yeah, us, we're the ones that are different. And you started out at the shallow end of the pool, and now you've swum out.
We're over our head, right?
Way over our head.
Way over.
I really get that. And for my personal self too, since they could access my story throughout, the importance of understanding the impact of what we're dealing with right now, and to minimize the stress on ourselves. Like, it's stressful enough now. Let's not stress ourselves.
Right.
But yeah, I feel it too, Debbie. I feel that part of me that's just like, yeah, I don't know. And it was that side that actually came out with the I hate you, where I was like, oh my gosh, look at me attached to the anger and the old model.
And that's why, as Robin brought up the forgiveness, I could definitely feel that when you said that, Robin, the lid lifting, so that just with the intent of, okay, I'm gonna, go at this with forgiveness, and that just releases right there, just that intention opens that for healing and seeing what's going on within ourselves, of course, and first.
I think I'm going to say me, but as a woman, a daughter, a mother, blah, blah, holding that lid on so tight, we're holding it ourselves, eh? Until we can't, until now we can't. We need to let it open up. And it doesn't have to blow up, but like let it open, let it release, and hopefully not self-destructive ways or destructive ways, but yeah.
I think mine was the other way, in that I was skiing and I was happy, and every day it was this, and then it was like, boom. And then I had to go, where is this? Where is this taking me? And I suddenly found myself back in this old conflict to the point where I had to call Debbie and have her help me figure out what is this? Oh my gosh.
Do you think that happiness and joy is what helped lift the lid?
I don't know. I was trying to think about that, because it was since I came down to Minneapolis in early January, this extraordinary time where every day I could wait to get out of bed again. And then it was the physical stuff, but I guess so.
Yeah, I remember my therapist telling me that a lot of times we will wait, our psyche will wait until such a time that it's in a really supportive container to allow that deep processing to come up. That our psyche is making these kind of decisions because it knows that, wow, if we're going to really open this lid, we need to have all the resources. So the more we are resourcing ourselves and creating sacred containers, the more we're providing that work to be done.
It's interesting you say that too, because Lily and I were commenting on the fact that Lily has gone to Texas for several months, and I'm house sitting in her house in Minneapolis. She's coming back once a month to see the grandkids. And it was basically when she walked through that door for her trip. And afterwards we were commenting upon, oh my God, what a coincidence but that would make sense. It would. And yeah, that if she came in and I do feel that on that release from that experience, it was an old conflict where these people were spiritual leaders of their community, but they were hypocrites. Revolving that around to realizing there's this deep part of me that, as much as I know who I am, I know we're doing this, I know the incredible power of Einstein and all the work we've done, there's still this part of me that's like, you're just a hypocrite. You're not it doesn't matter how much I can talk about your answer to your question, Joanne, the different aspects. And it helped to understand there were a couple of them, that it wasn't just this scaredy whatever I am. And then so slowly I was able to take a step forward.
Yeah. I'm so sorry you had to go through 15 hours of pain though.
I feel bad for Lily.
Good that it wasn't 16. How's that? When I had sciatica one time, and I've had it a few times, I decided I would just reference Louise Hay, see what she had to say about it. And it said a couple of things, but the one that stuck with me was something about being hypocritical. And honest to God, I read that as hypocritical. I'm not critical enough in a sense, and then I really pondered that when I put it together. In a way, like not critical enough of something, maybe something I'm doing or not doing, or
yeah.
And that gets you right in the hips, the sciatic area, according to that. So that was interesting to ponder. And the other thing they said that made me laugh was when your grumpy morning self. I ascertained in university that I should never make an important decision, life decision, before noon. That just was not gonna cut it.
See, don't give the car keys to the 11-year-old.
Yeah,
No kidding.
that's the same for me, but it's more after 8 p.m.
Yeah, it's in reverse. Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys. That was really helpful. And I'm excited about, now that I know, just as the afterthought, I did go to the doctor and she said you just kind of sprained your hip. And it's what I had sat down before I went to the doctor and I just got really quiet. And I said, you just overdid and it'll take some time. So there's a different kind of mindset about the next 6 weeks about what I'm going to do than if I wasn't in this sort of rehabilitative mode. So I won't be going on the big skis up the hill straight up, and there'll be other things I'm doing. And I think that's particularly applicable to us now in this time, is that we're in this extraordinary time and self-care and self-awareness are more than ever needed to be maybe the next level of conscious.
And definitely astrologically, that's also really supportive at this time, for the next, really through April. There's going to be a lot transiting through Pisces. And we're going to be having on April 12th, Jupiter conjunct Neptune, which hasn't happened in Pisces in 160 years. And when we have 4 planets in Pisces right now that are creating a time of a lot of endings, a lot of dissolving the things that no longer serve. And we've got the North Node in Taurus, which really aligns to keeping things simple, which was our message today too. And the North Node is going to be in Taurus for the next, it just moved into Taurus in early January, and it'll be there for 18 months. And that's really our North Star right now, is get back to the earth, keep things simple. And this time of Pisces is giving us, I had to laugh at what you said in your message about this time of connecting with divinity. Is that what you said in your blog? Which is so true too. That this is a time to be real quiet, to really, the veils are very thin, and have these spiritual people that have a lot of planets in Pisces, wink, wink, some people on this call, we get to feel what they feel all the time, which is kind of amazing. I was thinking last night, because I don't have things in Pisces, and I was thinking, whoa, it's pretty intense to feel the level that Pisces feels. So it's really going with the flow and connecting with our divinity. So anyway, I hope you don't mind me sharing that. But
No.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you.
We're
I
always
so
like,
appreciate that.
yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful time to be alive. And even as much as, as hard as it is when we watch the cosmos, it's like miraculous. It's miraculous what's being orchestrated right now.
Yeah. And we're little instruments in part of that, right?
Yeah.
That make a huge difference in that orchestration.
Well, and I watched a Greg Braden video the other day about why it's so important for us to understand that our lives are a piece of the fractal whole. So even though, like they said in the reading, you don't know how you're affecting the Ukraine, but you are in some way having this effect when we hold the sacredness and
Gives
live
us
in
a
that.
sense of agency, really.
Yeah.
Even if it's tiny, it's a sense of agency.
All right, Emily, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just taking it all in. Yeah, some really interesting things to talk about. I think like a lot of people, a lot of times I feel like I'm just at the whim of my own emotions. And the idea of actually just putting out that intent, or, even verbally saying, some affirmations of forgiveness, might open that up for me, to actually make it a reality, I guess, because I feel like there's a block there sometimes. Like I don't want to be holding that on. But how do I actually turn those words into the feeling, the reality of it inside me? Yeah, so that's where my thoughts are at.
Yeah, and those are our questions to ourselves, I think, every day, especially like in this situation where it came out of the blue in the physical form. It's like, God, I thought I had this. Shoot. But a constant awareness. And also, I don't know if you caught that, how we're talking and in the channeling, that really processing the emotion of it is a breath body thing, out of the head. So to be able to feel anger and be breathing, and I've got a little, my mantra is, I don't need to know why I feel this way. I just need to keep breathing, kind of stuff like that. That helps to also loosen things up in kind of surprising, unexpected ways when we just really commit to feeling and breathing without having to think about it. It starts to shift stuff too. So
interesting, Joanne, that you were referencing Louise Hay and sciatica and hip problems, because I just went through a massive hip problem as well. And wow, that's something I hadn't thought about, why it had manifested to the degree it manifested in the last week, 10 days.
wow.
So
It's
one of the
also,
reasons I did not have a chance to listen to all that other, I'm listening to so many things right now. And I guess my big takeaway from everything is just to sit quietly and breathe, and not necessarily, I'm not trying to meditate. I'm not trying to have mantras. I am just trying to, for myself, just sit, and whatever it is that I'm feeling is what I'm feeling, and trying to let go. This couldn't have been more appropriate for me, because I am struggling with letting go of anger and resentment of when I feel like someone has mistreated me. And it's very, very difficult to do, believe me.
yes, lifelong. Lifelong journey.
As fast as you think, or as fast as I think I've let go of something, here comes another one.
Sure.
Because I probably have so much of it packed down in here, in this barrel with this lid with the band on it. I think of those packing barrels I used to have for dishes years ago. You have to be my age probably to know about this.
Yeah.
And that band that they put around it and latch it. Well, that's kind of where I feel I am right now, is that getting the band off is bad enough, difficult enough, but then watching what all's trying to come out. So back to your analogy of the lid. This is a really good day today, by the way. I think a lot will come up for all of us, but I know it will for me.
Yeah.
And helping me to process, and then once again going back in, to the conflict revolution and working through that domain. That's a pretty interesting concept, and it's a difficult one for me to do all of the time. So I don't do it all of the time, but I do it whenever I can. And I guess that's part of it is we don't have to know. And that's one of the things I tell myself a lot. I don't have to know the answer. I just need to feel the process and let the process happen.
Yes. And also in 1994, on January, when we first channeled conflict resolution, and they said the revolutionary statement, if you're involved in a conflict and you have an emotional attachment to it, the root is within you. And at the time, my head whipped around and I was like, what? What are you talking about? To now I'm screaming on the couch in hip pain, and I'm revolving. It's become so part of, so I don't do it all the time. I don't, any of my friends will tell you too, when I get like that, oh, I don't want to do it either. But look at how much more we keep doing it. It becomes more part of us, part of our operating system. And then the new humanity, the DNA that we're holding changing. So every little bit helps.
Just one more comment. The other thing about hip pain from my later studies, my most recent studies, is that it can be because the hips are involved in moving us forward, we're not feeling comfortable or able to move forward for whatever reasons, whatever's going on in our lives. And right now, thanks to you, Robin, and thanks to the channeling, we're not really meant to move too fast right now, are we? We're not, they're saying don't move forward too fast kind of thing. And Barb, you're going to take some time now with your hips to let them really, reconfigure, if you will, or like realign in a way that's going to serve you better. So our bodies are so logical, biological. They just, what happens where is so relevant to what's going on in our psyches, and that, of course, is related to what's going on in the world. So,
yeah.
Think about Taurus, a bull, trying to get a bull to move when it's not ready to move.
if the North Node's in Taurus, does that mean we're coming from Scorpio? Does that always mean Scorpio?
Scorpio's in the South Node. Yeah.
South, yeah.
It's in Scorpio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, wow. Definitely, we can even think of that as being those deep pockets of abscesses that are ready to come up.
The Phoenix.
The great reveal. Yeah.
The great reveal. Yeah. Exciting times, like you said, Robin. But beautiful times, miraculous, magical times.
Well, and happy for all of you. Thank you for being on this journey.
Thank you, Barbara, for all you do all these years.
All right, next Saturday,
Okay.
conflict
Okay,
revolution.
nice seeing you all.
Nice to meet you, Emily. Come back if you
Meet
feel
you,
called.
Emily.
Nice to meet you guys. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Bye. I'll see you next week. Bye,
Debbie,
Pam.